Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Path and Bounds Design Uncensored. My name is Stella Guan. I'm the founder and CEO. We are an online design school helping students who are interested in becoming UI, UX, and product designers find their career, and we have customized curriculums to help them to achieve that. And in this episode, we're back with our favorite guest, Carrie McPherson, now working as a product designer for Disney. Congratulations on your new job, by the way, and thank you so much for being with us again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so in this episode, we will talk about the Google UX Design Certificate. So, a lot of our listeners and viewers probably already either have taken it as a student or at least have heard of it because Google, who hasn't heard of it, right? So, Carrie, have you personally heard of it before?
Of course, even the person in finance that I work with has heard of it.
Oh, wow. That's really impressive. It just, is a testament to when big brands use their name and launch something, of course, people are going to flock to it, right? But as critical thinkers, we tend to look at things, beyond its service value. And we recently have gotten quite a few students who have already taken the Google UX Design Certificate that weren't unfortunately weren't satisfied with it because they were not able to, one, get hands-on mentorship, and second, the projects were kind of spec projects, and third, they didn't have any career training, so they came to us and enrolled in our program instead. So it piqued personally my interest to look into the program a little bit more. And personally, I found it to be very solid in terms of its content. And it basically takes you from the beginning to the end of a UX journey. And it is definitely beginner friendly. It will teach you the basics of, UX design if that's what you're looking to do. However, I think at some point it probably started failing. That's why a lot of students, they were disappointed and they looked elsewhere. So, Carrie, where do you think the Google Certificate course falls short at?
So, falling short, I think first and foremost, I need to talk about education overall, not just design related. That education is really criticized, especially in this country, that it teaches you inputs and outputs, right? And it doesn't teach you about working in a corporate world, being really successful in society, or even trying to become a billionaire, right? They don't have those things. So when you think about user experience design, it's sort of the same way, in that it's getting to a point where they're not teaching you about those nuances that you're gonna, really get on a job, right? Or really what makes a true and successful designer, what makes someone a design leader, right? What makes someone get into Instagram or a really popular company as well. So I think that where they fall short is in collaboration. So teach them about the real world. What if you work at a startup that doesn't have any research? This is how you do it, right? Or these are some things that you can do by thinking outside of the box. What if you're working on a team of 20 people and they're pulling you in 20 different directions, from internal stakeholders to external vendors, right? How do you present your work to non-designers? How do you work with developers and making sure you have a successful trade-off, right? How are you working with people that are hard to get along with? Talking about how there's going to be some rough times in the job. Like, they don't talk about the things that really matter and the things that you need in order to succeed on a job. So that's where they're falling short. And they're giving like this false expectation of, oh, this, this template, right? Or this standardized process of what we're giving you is going to work every time. It doesn't. Companies are nuanced. Projects are really complicated, have different timelines. And one more thing is that um they don't really go in depth about the archetype, right? And split off the courses in those areas. So, oh, I want to be a true blue UX designer, right? And focus on like information architecture and flows, or I want to be a UX architect, or I want to be a product designer, et cetera, et cetera. It's like they're just trying to give you like this full generic buffet where you're not getting the meal that you actually need in order to be healthy and fit.
I love that word, generic buffet. I think that's the first time I heard of it, but I agree because when I was reviewing the course, I thought, okay, it's pretty solid, but At the same time, I'm disappointed because it is Google, and I was expecting something a little bit more than the standardized curriculum that most other schools are doing it anyway. So it almost feels like they just slap on the Google name and just like teaching the same thing, which I mean, it's not like wrong, but they could have added a lot more depth to the course. Now, of course, there's a good thing about the course, which is very affordable, right? It's 7 day free trial, and then after the trial, it's $39 per month. So I think it is within reach for a lot of people, and that's why almost 600,000 learners have signed up, which is very impressive. And I think a lot of people came to the course thinking that one, they might get a chance to work at Google after they complete the course. And second, at the very least, they are certified as a UX designer. So let's talk about these 2 points, right? So the first point, you actually brought it up to me a few days ago. You sent me a screenshot of an eager job, applicants who left this comment at a thread from a Google hiring manager. He asked, will I be qualified to work at Google after completing this course and receiving the certificate? And the Google hiring manager only replied with one word, no. So that's incredibly heartbreaking and not surprising, right? So do you have any thoughts, theories about why Google even launched the course?
Yeah, I think so. In my opinion, I think there's politics within corporate, and a lot of things can get taken out of context or it's out of hand. So just so a lot of people know, like Google they've been having like other IT courses right throughout the years. So
Yep.
I think for like product management, there's one for like help desk desktop support as well, and there's some other different ones. And of course, they attach other different companies and affiliates, right? Saying
Yep.
that, oh, if you take this, these companies will notice, and that wasn't true. And I had to find that out the hard way. I think it's just politics. I think someone who was probably in like relationships or not relations, but yeah, public relations or one of those teams probably had more to do with it than the actual UX team at Google. And the reason that I think that, and that they probably hired like contracted someone
Yep.
that was outsourced, right? And they
Absolutely.
created that certification under the Google name. And if you look closely, and I highly recommend that anyone do this, if you look closely in the fine print, right, of what you're about to acknowledge, they actually say once you take this course, you cannot work at Google. And the
Ooh.
reason for that, yeah, is that when you think about these FAANG companies, um, they're the best of the best. This is how they look at it. They're the cream of the crop. And that if they're hiring anyone that's entry level, they're coming from a really well known design school or a college that has a really great computer science program. And that's who they're getting because they're Google or they're Apple or they're
Yeah.
Facebook or whatever. That's just the way that they think, in a sense. And I think that with Google, I just highly believe, and once again, I hope that I'm proven wrong, but I really think that it was outsourced, that someone in public relations had more to do with this than the actual UX team. And they just said, well, we're just going to slap the Google name on it
Mhm.
so more people can take it from a marketing point of view and we can make more money.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, neither of us work for Google, internally, so we can't really say for sure why this is the case. But I agree. I think it's more of a, it has many reasons, but one of the reasons I suspect is for employer brand, because if you have, such a course, right, and you have a lot of people interested in enrolling, you can, one, build your brand as a really, like trusted employer. Not that they really need to build their brand even more, but then I almost think that they could also collect more data, if they need it for, any purposes in the future, because these are really valuable learning data that they could utilize in many different ways, right? Like all of tech companies collect data anyway. I don't think that they really need the money because it's not like that expensive, even though that is a sizable chunk of money for any small companies, right? So yeah, I agree. It could be a mixed bag of reasons. Now, let's talk a little bit about the concept of certification in our industry, because I think that's another reason that a lot of aspiring designers flock to this program, because it has a degree of authority to it, even though they know that they can't work for Google. But what about other companies that are looking at my credentials? How great it is to have something that's certified by Google, right? Is there such a thing in our industry? Unlike in many other industries, like the medical field, like, the law field, right? They do have to pass the bar exam, the board exam. They do have to get certified. If you're an EMT, you have to get certified. And like you mentioned to me before, if you're in IT support, right, like technical field, you have to get certified in certain areas. But in design, is there such a thing as a certification?